Welcome. Welcome to a video that will explain how the bronze crest of St. Margaret's School was designed and cast. This commission was for an 11-foot by 8.5-foot bronze to be installed in front of the new $23 million Performing Arts Center. I've dedicated this video to the many people that prepared me to take on a challenge of this magnitude. My teachers, patrons, friends. I also want to thank the many hands, the talented hands that have helped me make this project successful. As you watch this video, you'll not only learn about the crest, but I hope you learn about the lost wax method. I will take you from the positive to the negative, to positive to negative, and finally to the positive bronze. Most artists begin with the canvas. Well, mine was 12 feet tall. My son made this, and the challenge was now bringing it in the house. My living room became my studio because I had a 12-foot ceiling. The canvas, once it was installed, had carpet padding, 2 layers of carpet padding put in the center because we wanted a crown so that the water would run off. On top of that, 4 by 8 sheets, 3/4 inch thick, of 10-pound polyfoam core was glued to the front of the canvas. From across the living room, we were able to project the image that the school gave me. You'll see here, this is the original school crest that they gave me. And I think it was designed for embroidery work because it's very simplistic. While the image was projected on the foam, I was able to use a pencil and literally copy it. But now my fun began. I started by carving. Mistake. With the foam, this is subtractive. I had to find different tools that would scrape and grate the foam away rather than carve it away. I found many new tools, but also I had to fill the places that were too low and add to the others. I couldn't have over 1/4 inch because of ADA and tripping. The first crest that I started carving was so simplistic, I asked the committee to come and take a look and decide, is this really what they wanted? Fortunately, they decided to go to a heraldic crest. That meant that those quail that were over on the right could turn into swallows. And that meant that the lion could be made fierce and more heraldic, with tongue and claws, etc. The ribbon became a challenge because it's 5 different layers really by design, but none of it could come up over 1/4 inch. So I had to go down to come up and go down to come up and down to come up. The whole piece was painted brown so the committee and I would not be distracted by the different colors of the clay and the foam. Adhesive computer-generated stencils allowed me to use paint so I could then see and carve the letters. And that was nice because I could really see the image that way. Painted it again brown and had the committee come, and fortunately they approved it. Once it was down, I was able to handle certain areas and recut the letters. A wall was built around this piece so that the polygel mold, which is the negative, could be poured in. Fiberglass rods were put on the back to reinforce it. The whole piece was then crated, and then we transported it down to Tijuana, Mexico, to the pure bronze foundry. You'll see here the concave mold that was to keep that same crown for the water. In order to get to the positive again, wax was put into the mold, and it had to be done in 16 pieces because that is the largest piece that can go into the furnace. Each one of those pieces are taken into the wax room where the gals work on each piece, looking to see that the seams are right, that the piece matches the piece next to it, that the texture is correct, and then it can have its pour cup and its gates attached to it. This is how the molten bronze gets to our piece. Now let's go to the investment room. Here the piece will be invested in a silica shell exterior, which will become the negative. The piece is dipped into a slurry, and then it's got very fine sand thrown on it. That has to dry. Then they do it again and again and again, and the fifth coat is usually this very coarse aggregate, a thicker slurry and a coarse aggregate. These pieces are drying in the investment room, and then they are taken to the oven where the wax will be melted out. These pieces are not typical investments. Because the first piece blew out, which was expensive, the additional pieces were wrapped in baling wire, chicken wire, and then reinvested. Each of these pieces are put in this oven where the wax is melted out. The wax is recollected and used later. Here's an example of an investment with the wax out. They heat the silica shell casting to be the same temperature as the bronze that's going to be poured into it, so they'll get a more consistent pour. The casting area has a flame furnace for the heating the investments, the huge furnace for melting the bronze, and a sandbox where each of the investments are placed to sit securely during the casting, during the pour. I'll let you enjoy the casting as they put the bronze, molten bronze, into the crucible and bring it over and try to pour it into a little bitty hole. Removing this silica shell casting from the bronze is usually quite simple. They usually use a jackhammer. But in this case, with all the reinforcement, they can't. So they manually remove the silica shell casting, and then they have to remove the wires and so forth. As the wires and everything are removed, you see the pour cup and you see the gates where the bronze went in. That extra bronze will be cut off either with a laser cutter or with an angle grinder, and that bronze can be reused as long as it's no more than 50% old bronze with new silicon bronze. Each piece, after the pieces are cut off, the little addendums are cut off, the piece will have these little nubs that have to be removed. This is the time where the welder and the chaser work together and check for the integrity of each bronze piece. If it's too thin, they thicken it. If there's a hole, they fill it. If there's a problem, they solve it. And it goes from the welder to the chaser to the welder to the chaser. The chasers are where they grind and return the finish to a bronze. Here's the chasing room, where usually 6 to 8 guys are in there. They have the air compressor with about 6 or 7 tools next to them, and many tips, different tips. They will do everything from broad chasing, which is on this finger. He's getting a polished finish, to very finite drilling, grinding on very small pieces. I'll show you here an eagle that was made in 3 pieces, and you can see where they welded the wings on. When they weld it on, that texture has to be returned. Here the gentleman is putting every feather, every hair on every feather. The black part in between is from the weld, and that will come off with the sandblasting. Let's return to the crest. We now have 15 pieces. The one that blew out has not yet been cast. You'll notice that all the seams have about an inch, inch and a half of space. Those have to be welded and closed, but then the texture has to be returned. If I used a granite stone to pound on the foam, they have to make it look like granite stone pounding. My one insistence was that those seams not show. First time through with the sandblasting, unfortunately, they did. We reinforced with pipe and bolts every 12 inches, reinforced the back of it so it wouldn't bend. and then went back to rechasing the front, and rechased it and ground it all over. The whole background was rechased. Now it's ready to go to the sandblaster. That was exciting to see that. The sand will take off the impurities, the handprints, the oils, any problems, so that the bronze is now ready for patina. If there is a problem, and I found one, they can fix it there and then re-sandblast. The piece is then taken into the patina room. Here where they will heat the bronze and begin with liver sulfate. Liver sulfate makes future colors that you want to put on the bronze adhere to the bronze. The liver is black. It is put on and then washed off. The black is left in the recessed areas to emphasize the design. Once the liver sulfite is dried, they can reheat the bronze and then put in ferric nitrate. Ferric nitrate is a brown, and I put on 2 coats and then burnished off the top layer so that the lighter parts were highlighted. We finished the piece with a couple layers of melted paste wax. This wax protects the piece from the elements once installed. Transport from the foundry and installation offered new challenges for us. Bronze shrinks 3% in casting. We found this out the hard way. Getting a bronze this large to be absolutely level is extremely difficult, and this was necessary because we couldn't have over a 1/4 inch rise. Seeing the piece installed in front of that magnificent Performing Arts Center was very gratifying. This year-long project would not have been possible without the help of many, many people. I particularly want to thank Danny Kreisen for his computer work, Laurie Smith for his multiple talents, Jose and all the guys at Pure Bronze Foundry, and to you for watching this video. I'm Laurie Smith, sculptor.